We're going to be talking all about why you should write your book. So book writing is something that I'm really passionate about. And as people are coming in, I want to tell a little bit about my story. So say hey as you're coming in, say hey as you're watching the replay. So in 2017, I started writing my very first book. At the time, I did not know that it was actually going to be a book. I was going through a separation / divorce at the time, and I joined a single moms group. And it was to support single moms. And I remember when I was in this group, people would ask me how I was balancing all these things. So at the time, I was working on my doctorate full time. I'm raising both of my girls. I was working a full time job and working a part time job. And I've always just kind of had an eye for balance. And one of the things that I always say, I read a quote one time, and I'll probably bomb it, but it's always stuck with me. And we as women, we're trying to balance a lot. We're trying to do a lot. And the quote said essentially, like, we have a ton of balls in the air. The way to balance is to determine which balls are plastic and which balls are glass, and then you can determine which ones you need to hold, because glass ones will break if they hit the floor, and then which ones are plastic are the ones that they hit the floor, and you're like, all right, they hit the floor, but I can pick them back up and balance them again. So anyways, I took this in, and I've always just had an eye for balancing effectively. And so the women at my church at the time started to ask me questions like, how are you balancing all of these things? How are you taking this all in? And so what I decided I was going to do was, originally it was just going to be like a PDF document that I was going to give to these women so that they can learn how to effectively balance. The more I started writing this PDF document, the more I'm like, man, I can maybe turn this into like an ebook. It'll be a couple pages long. I'll give this to them. The more I started writing the ebook, the more I'm like, man, if they like this, if they're asking for this, how many other women across the world could benefit from this? So that's when my very first book, Quick Tips for Busy Women, was birthed. And little did I know, this little tiny baby dream of mine turned into this massive shift in my life, where I started to just help women with balance, with book writing, with all the things. And that's where my business was birthed. And so something that I've always been passionate about, because while I do have a certification program, I still help and coach around book writing. And this has been something that I've always been passionate about, because this to me is the foundation from when I was able to build my brand. And so I always tell my coaches, always tell those that are ready to stand out in the business world, those that want to be entrepreneurs, that writing a book is the best way you can leverage and build your brand. And so today what I want to talk about is, I want to talk about the 3 reasons why you need to have a book. Okay, so statistics say that about 81% of people want to write a book, and less than 1%, less than 1% actually go forward and write their book. Mind blowing. Now, what I'd like to add in, and this isn't a statistic that has been like researched per se, but this has been through my own journey. I think I've helped, I looked yesterday, I want to say it was around 77 women in total that I've been able to bless and help bring their book vision to life. Plus I've written my own books, and then I have helped my daughters write books. And in that process, what I've learned is there's hundreds of people that want to write it. And it's not that they're lazy. It's not that they're not trying hard enough. It's because we don't know the way to actually make it happen. We don't know how to bring the book vision together. We overthink it. We overcomplicate it. We take years, weeks, months, if we take forever basically to try to get this book written, because we overcomplicate it. And I'm here to tell you that the process doesn't have to be challenging, okay? Writing a book was literally the best decision. Good morning. Writing a book was literally the best decision that I have ever made in my entire life. And it's something that I am passionate about helping other people do. So let's talk about those 3 reasons why I think writing a book is amazing. So in this online space, there are a lot of like coaches, there's a lot of healers, there's a lot of like support people, there's a lot of reconnecting. Okay, it reconnected. Sorry, I lost you guys. So my Instagram's been acting really weird, so I apologize about that. But there's a lot of people in this online space. And one of the things that I feel like is missing in this online space is authenticity. The thing that makes you different, the thing that makes you stand out. I feel like a lot of times what ends up happening is we blend in. We do what the gurus are telling us. We do what other people are doing that we think work, and we blend in. So when you write a book, the number one thing, thank you so much for the love, the number one thing that helps you to stand out is that you get to be able, you get to be able to add author to your bio. And let me just tell you, When you're wanting to get your foot in the door, when you're wanting to show up and show out in this online space, having author behind your name or best-selling author behind your name changes every single thing. Yo, my God, that's a big fear. Like, will anyone want to actually read my book? And we'll talk about that. Thank you, Ozil, for sharing that. And I hope I said that name right. I hate when people bomb mine, so I apologize if I said it wrong, but we'll talk about that. So when you add, for me, when I added, okay, I'm Dr. Nicolia, best-selling author. Thank you for the love. It changed everything for me. I got a radio show segment. People started asking me how I was writing a book. I got offered speaking engagements because there are a lot of people in this space that are doing the same thing you're doing, but now you have this one up. You're adding author to your bio, which is a huge deal. That makes you stand out. So let me answer the 2 questions I see over on Facebook. I'm scared. Will anyone want to read my book? And then Taisha, I'll answer yours. So here's the truth. There are a million books on the same topic. And I get people all the time that they're like, okay, I want to write this financial book, but there's all these people that already wrote financial books. So like, why should I do it? Why would anyone want to read mine? Because oh my gosh, I can go on. I get so excited. So think about it. When we are buying online, let's say we're buying a course, we're buying a book, we're buying a program, we're investing in a coach. We buy from that coach because we're connected to that coach. We're connected to that person. There are millions of people coaching people around book writing. There are millions of people that certify coaches, right? But the clients that come to work with me come because of who I am and what it is that I have to offer that's unique, okay? So when you're thinking about, will anyone want to read my book? Yes, because they're going to want to know your spin. They're going to want to know your perspective. They're going to want to know your story as it relates to your particular and specific book, okay? And so when you're thinking about it, the best thing, this is what I always say, and I read so much statistics because I'm constantly publishing. I'm constantly helping other people publish. But the average author only sells about 200 to 300 copies of a book in the entire shelf life, okay? And that may sound like a lot in the beginning, but if you have a book, published for 10 years, 200 to 300 copies isn't effective. But yet we have books that people have passed away and people are still reading them, right? The way to get people to buy your book is to talk to them about why this is important for them. Why does this matter for them? So when I wrote my very first book, Quick Tips for Busy Women, I started to talk about the importance of balance. And I talked about specifically how women were wearing multiple hats and exhausted with wearing multiple hats. Thank you so much for the love. And trying to take all of this in and balance these millions of different hats and exhausted. And I talked about my unique journey and how I was able to find balance. And I shared the quote that I shared with you guys earlier. Some things, thank you so much. Elizabeth, yes, you have to touch them. I always say, what's in it for me? When I am thinking about my audience and relating to them, I always say, what's in it for them and how can I speak to what's in it for them? Because that's what stands out. Not when I talk about my journey. That's great, right? They want to know my perspective. They want to know I'm relatable. But what is in it for your audience? And how can you speak to that? And that's how you get people inspired to be able to write your book, read your book. And so also letting yourself know that a million people could write about the same exact thing that you're writing about, but it's your unique spin that makes it different, okay? Your unique approach that makes it different, that makes it stand out, okay? The next question I got from Taisha is, how can I become a bestseller? So there are so many ways that I could say about this. And I actually do teach that process. I have a couple different programs in which I teach, and we'll talk about that towards the end of this live. But I talk about how you become a bestseller. I talk about the strategy. I talk about the intentionality, and I talk about how that makes you stand out. Okay. And so for me, thank you so much for the love. I have 10 books and I've been able to become a bestseller with all of them. And the key that I want to give you here is it's about marketing effectively, speaking to your audience effectively, and not when the book is already published. Okay. It starts in the beginning stages when you're writing. Who are you writing to? Are you being intentional about writing to them? And I'll tell you guys just a really brief story. I'm sorry, Instagram. I don't know why it keeps cutting off. All right. Let's start again. Okay. So I'm telling you guys this brief story. When I first started writing my very, very first book, I was writing about productivity hacks. And at the time, I felt like the productivity hacks I was writing could bless everybody. I'm like, men could read it, women could read it, moms could read it, kids could read it. Like, I just had this idea. And here's the thing. When you're writing to everyone, thank you for the love, you're writing to no one. Okay. So what I had to do is I had to be really intentional about who I was writing to and speak directly to that person. And at the time I was writing to the older version of me, the version of me that needed to know that you could find balance after burnout, that you could, juggle all of these balls and not feel like you're going to lose your mind or not drop something that's important or something that will break. And so when I was intentional about writing to that specific person, things changed tremendously. And that's the part, that's what I mean when I say it starts about being intentional in the beginning stages, not after you've already written it. Okay. Not after you're desperate and you already published it and your mom, your cousin, your auntie bought it and you're like, I need somebody else to buy this book. That's not when the marketing starts. That's not what the intentionality starts. And if you want to be a bestseller, it starts at the foundational stages. And that's one of the things that I teach that's very different than what you would Google and find. Okay. So the first step that I said, the reason why you want to become a best-selling author, why you want to publish your book, why you want to get your book out there is because it helps you to add author to your bio, which automatically helps you to stand out. In this online space, it is so easy to blend in, but that is the last thing you want to do. You are made unique for a purpose, and it is your job to show up as such, not to be another copycat. Because here's the thing, the person you pretend to be will become exhausting, but when you show up fully as yourself, it doesn't get exhausting. You get to just be you. I go live a lot and I'm like walking out and I'm outside and I'm sweating and I look crazy, but I'm not trying to be somebody I'm not, right? I get to just show up and I'm like, something dropped in my spirit this morning and I want to share it because I've authentically shown up as myself. That's just part of who my brand is. And that's one of the best things that I could do for myself, because otherwise I was exhausting myself trying to be somebody I'm not. Okay. Were you scared? Let me see. Were you scared of making mistakes like language, wording, mistakes when you were writing your first book? Yes, that was a big fear of mine because I'll be really honest. It's another story. Thank you for asking that. Is I had a high school teacher who told me I wasn't a strong writer. And I think she at the time wanted to say it to help me write more effectively for a paper I was writing. But that was something I internalized. And so I always thought, okay, I'm not a good writer. I'm not a strong writer. I'm not going to be able to show up. But this is where I think a lot of people make mistakes. They think that they have to perfect their book. There is no book published that has not been effectively edited. Not books that are doing phenomenal. Your book is going to have multiple drafts. The first round you write it, it'll be okay. The second round you write it, it'll be okay. The third round you fix it, you'll start to get better. And honestly, there are books that I've already published that I'll look back and I'll be like, dang, I forgot a comma here. And that's 2-3 rounds of editing plus my editor going through it. There are still going to be mistakes, but on average, every book is going to have a few mistakes. And this is where you get the support of a team to be able to help with that. Okay. Wonderful question. Okay, so the first step or the first reason why you want to write your book is because you get to add author to your bio. The second and third kind of go in one. So I'm going to break those down for you. You get to increase both your income and your impact at the same time. So let's talk about that. When you're writing a book, the great thing about it is once it's written, this book can travel the world. And I have recently, maybe about a year ago, I had a lady write me about my book called Survive Your Split. And she wrote me and told me she's in Ghana and that her and her church were using it for a divorce healing support group. Do you know how powerful that was to me? Because here I was actually in bed when I received this email and this thank you email, but it spoke volumes to me because people essentially were being impacted all the way across the world. Thank you for the love. All the way across the world because of something that I wrote a few months ago, something that was on my heart a few months ago. And I listened and I honored that. And so this is what I mean by it increases your income and your impact. When you write a book, you get to impact people all over the world. Me as a coach, sometimes people are like, okay, I like to be in your energy, but I'm not sure I'm ready to commit fully to that, to the next big step, right? So what else can I do to learn how you are, to learn how you operate, to learn what it's like to work with you? And they'll start reading a book. So I'm still having an impact on people for a book that's $12.95 and they're still being impacted with it. And then they can decide, do they want to continue? Do they want to move forward? But I've had an impact, which leads to the second piece, because now I'm increasing my income. So one of the greatest pieces about writing a book is that once you write your book, you have passive sales from royalties. Your book just gets to sell and it gets to sell and it gets to sell. And this is not something that, and you should always be selling your books. You should always be talking about your books. You should always it's a blessing for you to offer what you're offering to people. It's not being salesy or anything like that. If you know what you wrote is beneficial and helpful and can bless somebody, it is your duty. It is your duty to tell people about it, okay? And not from a place of being salesy. There's times where it's laid on my spirit. I was on a flight one time and it was laid on my spirit to give my book to a flight attendant. She looked kind of bored and I was like, you know what? I don't know. God just dropped it on my spirit and I gave her the book. I don't know where that book is now. For all I know, she could have read it and gave it to somebody else on another plane and they could be traveling to another country with this book. She could have not read it. Like she could have given it to somebody back at home. I don't know, but it dropped in my spirit. And so here's the thing. It creates this ripple effect because here I am. I wrote this book. I listened to my calling to write this book. I showed up for it, and then I'm impacting people through my words, through my writing. And as I'm impacting people through my words and through my writing, I'm able to also, thank you for the love, increase my impact at the same time. Because now with these words, people may say, okay, I decide that I want to take this next step with you. Or people may say, oh my goodness, I really, really like this book. I'm going to tell somebody else about this book and we'll do a book study. Or I'm going to tell people at my church and it's going to bless them. Whatever it may be, now it's created this essential ripple effect. So all in all, I'm increasing my income and my impact from something that I've written one time. And that's what I love about books, is that it continues to grow. It continues to expand, and it continues to expand your reach, your income, your impact, all of the things which are so powerful because it's just a one-time thing that you've done, and it's so powerful. So let's see, we got another question. How did you actually start? How did you know what place to start at the beginning of your book journey? Okay, so how did I actually start? I shared that story a little bit, but I'll kind of go a little bit more in depth. So in the beginning, I started by accident. I wanted to write a book years ago, but I had a teacher who told me I wasn't a strong writer, so I blew that vision off. And I was like, okay, never mind, I'm not even going to write. Well, then eventually when I was going through a divorce, I joined a single moms group at my local church. And in that group, they were asking me how I was balancing all these things. And in this season, I was balancing a crap ton of things. I was in my doctorate full time. I was raising 2 kids. I was working a full-time job, working a part-time job. And so it started off with me deciding, okay, I'm going to write a PDF document. And then that PDF document, as I started writing it, I was like, oh, I should maybe turn it into an ebook. So it turned into like a 10-page thing. Then I had more that I wanted to share, more that I wanted to say. So I started to expand on it. And then the more I started to think about it, and I had a lot of fear, guys, a lot. And I know that's where you are. And these questions are wonderful. These questions are great. I had a lot of fear coming up. But because I was doing it slowly and building up, I was like, you know what? If these women at my local church want this information, why wouldn't somebody else across the world want this information? And so that's when I slowly turned it into a book. That's when I slowly decided to expand. So that's how I started on my book journey. Now, a big piece of that, Nicole, great question. I'm on welcome on Instagram. I see some people joining. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, so I'm kind of bouncing between and answering questions. Feel free to put your questions down below. Happy to answer those. So one thing that I learned through this journey, and one thing that I did that and this is why I do what I do now. So one thing that I did is I tried to piecemeal my way to success. I am very, very, very creative. And I'm very resourceful, right? And sometimes that's a great thing, but in other times I can get in my own way with that. So what I did is I tried to Google everything under the sun. I watched every YouTube video you can think about writing a book. I Googled every blog I could find and read those. And so I tried to essentially create my own book writing process through that. Now, what I learned in this journey, and this is why I wanted to create a seamless process for you guys, is I learned that you can Google everything you want, right? And Google has really accurate information and it has really inaccurate information. And if you don't know the difference, if this is your first time writing, you're not going to be able to decipher between the two. And therefore, it creates a very complicated and overwhelming process. So what I started to do, and I did not know, and I'm just so grateful that God made this happen the way he did, I started to journal my process. More at the time, it was selfish because I wanted to just keep myself encouraged. I wanted to remind myself that I needed to keep going. I needed to stay encouraged. I started to journal my process. I started to journal how I was getting through it. And little by little, that journal became my proprietary process that I teach people to use to write, publish, and prosper from their book, okay? Because of my own experience, because of me once overcomplicating the process and realizing it doesn't need to be difficult, okay? So, Nicole, what I actually teach is I teach that process. Now, I teach how you can avoid trying to Google things that are totally wrong. Somebody asked earlier, Taisha asked earlier, how do you become a best-selling author? There are a million things online that'll tell you how to become a best-selling author. But what I find is they always tell you how to do it after you've already published a book. That's the worst thing that you can do. Becoming a best-selling author starts with intentionality before you even start putting a pen to paper. That's where it starts, okay? If you want to expand your brand, you want to expand your impact, you want to expand your reach by becoming that best-selling author, adding best-selling author to your bio, you have to be intentional in the beginning, not after it's already done, not after you're already defeated, when your mom, your auntie, and your cousin bought your book and that's it, and it's sitting propping up a TV stand or something. That's when you become intentional. You don't become intentional then, you become intentional in the beginning, okay? And that's what I teach. So what I wanted to come over and share is that my Write Your Book in a Weekend doors are open until tomorrow at midnight Eastern Standard Time, okay? And the reason that I'm sharing, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the reason that I'm sharing this is because I do this twice a year. I do this intensive twice a year. People love this intensive. They always join. Hello, Angie. It's good to see you. People join, love it. But I'll be really honest, I only do it twice a year. And the last time I did it, I had so many people request and ask for it again. And I was hesitant. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to do it again or what that's going to look like. But I decided that I wanted to do it one more time so that by the time the clock strikes 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on December 31st, 2021, you not only have your manuscript written, it's already published, you've already been able to become a bestseller, you already have the support that you need to actually see this vision through. So if writing your book has been on your vision board for years, and I know for many of you, it's like it's been on your vision board in 2017 and then 2018 and 2019 and 2020 and 2021. It's been year after year after year after year, and you're not getting any closer to it. This intimate container is where you need to be, because here, I am supporting only 5 women total. Not only am I helping you write it, I'm literally teaching you my proprietary process that takes away the overwhelm. And dare I even say, makes it fun, like makes the process exciting. So I'm teaching you that process. I'm there in with you. So I'm giving you feedback as you're writing. I'm helping, supporting you at moving things along and organizing your thoughts and mind mapping your thoughts and literally getting it done. Okay. And so there are still spots for you guys to join by tomorrow at midnight, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you are ready to bring that book vision to life, you're done hoping, wishing, waiting, Googling your way through trying to get it done. You're done taking weeks, months, and years to make it happen. Run to that first button in my bio to snag your spot. On that page, you're actually going to see, and I see the comments, I'll come right over there. On that page, you will see the feedback from my other clients that have gone through this intimate experience with me, what we've been able to accomplish, what we've been able to do. And this is literally one of my best-selling experiences because you are getting intimate access to me for 2 days straight. 2 days straight to get all your questions answered, to get all the support that you're wanting. Everything. And this, again, this is something I only run twice a year. And so when you get in it, you want to move fast because those spots always go really, really quick. So I thank you. That was a very succinct response. Thank you so much. I think I need a journal right now to form a strong foundation. Oh, thank you, Nicole. Having that strong foundation is great. But sometimes, I know this sounds cliche, but sometimes I always say writing begets more writing, right? When we turn the faucet on, the water flows. When we turn the writing on, the writing flows. So definitely journal, right? Start to journal. Let those thoughts flow. Let those things come to you. And you're going to notice more and more and more coming to you. Thank you for joining. Does sales money motivate you for writing more and more as a newbie writer, and how much can a person expect in terms of sales perspective? So great question. I shared a little bit about that earlier. So on average, the average writer, author sells about 200 to 300 copies of their book in the totality of the books of the shelf life, which is not really good in the long run. It sounds great in the first year, the first month, whatever, but in the long run, it's not. And what ends up happening is they think that they've put their book online and they think that it'll just magically sell, that it'll actually just get done, that people will want to buy it. And I learned that the hard way, right? My very first book, my uncle bought it, my cousin bought it, my mom bought it, my brother bought it. Like I had 4 or 5 people buy it. And I thought once it hit Amazon, it would be great. But I think, and I don't remember the exact number, so don't quote me, but there's well over 1,000 books being published every day on Amazon. And so if you're not intentional about writing your book and putting it out there and letting people know that it's coming, you're not intentional about drawing people to it and letting them know what's in it for me, WIFM, what's in it for me. If you're not intentional about letting them know what's in it for them, they won't be drawn to it. They're not going to take that next step. They're not going to want to purchase the book or whatever it may be. And so one of the things that I teach as well, so inside the Write Your Book in a Weekend container, you also get free access to my Market Your Masterpiece course, where I teach you how to be intentional about marketing. And again, marketing doesn't start when the book is done being written. It doesn't start when you've published. It starts now. It starts right now when you're mapping out your idea, when you're laying out what your title is going to be, when you're laying out what the subject matter is going to be, when you're committed to. Sorry, thank you. Thank you for your patience. Instagram, I don't know why it keeps cutting off. So yes, and sales look different. To answer your question, all in all, sales look different. They're going to look different for each person, but it's all about intentionality. Okay, that's a really big piece of it. And then let's see, I'm loving your live. So asking you questions. Thanks for the info. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So just to wrap up, because I know we're closing out here. Hey, say hey. I see some more people coming in on Instagram. If you're just now popping in, make sure you catch this live from the beginning. There's lots of goodness in here. And remember too, for those that are ready to get your book written, you run to that first button in my bio and we can get it written in 2 days. We get it written in a weekend. You are going to be supported like never before. And that's something that I'm a coach that over delivers. I'm really passionate about showing up and showing out for my clients. And I want you to be able to end this year strong with that vision of adding best-selling author to your bio. So definitely run to the first button in my bio. And if you have specific questions, just DM me. Like, I'm open. I'm friendly. I promise I don't bite. Happy to chat with you guys in the DMs. But just as a wrap up, I want to wrap this up here. Oh, yes. Come through, Angie. I'm so glad to see your face. Okay, so let's just wrap it up one more time. So one, the reason you want to write your book is it allows you to add author to your bio, okay? It helps you to stand out in this space where it's really easy to blend in. And I am not about blending in. I don't know if I told this story live. I've never told it live. But one thing I've always hated is I've hated my name, right? I feel like everyone in my family had a basic name. Kelly, Alan, Susan, Michael, Jennifer, like everyone, Charlie, everyone had a super basic name. And here I was with Nicolia. For a long time, I resisted my name until I met a lady on Facebook, funny enough, and she was from Russia, and her name is Nicolia. And she told me that the name in Russia means victory. And I started to buy into the uniqueness of my name. And not only just the uniqueness of my name, but the uniqueness of who I'm called to be. I'm not called to blend in. We are made to stand out. And you're doing yourself a disservice and everybody else in this world a disservice by trying to blend in. So when you get to write your book, you get to share your voice, you get to share your story, you stand out. And that's more powerful than anything. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second reason you want to write your book is kind of twofold. A second and third reason, because it allows you to expand your income and your impact, okay? You get to reach people all across the world, even though you may be in your home somewhere, right? I told you guys a story of the lady in Ghana that got my book, that felt so blessed by it. And then you get to increase your income. It's passive income. So you write your book one time, and each month you're able to call in sales when you're intentional about who you're writing to and letting them know that you're writing to them and why they need it, okay? So those are the 3 reasons that you need to write your book today. If you're looking for support to be able to bring it together without the overwhelm, without the frustration, without the exhaustion, without you throwing in the towel, definitely, you can either feel free to DM me and ask me about how this intimate container can work for you, or you can feel free to run to my the first button in my bio. You'll see all the details, all the feedback I got from my clients, and I have helped. I looked yesterday. I think a total of 77 women write their book. I've written 10 books myself, and I've helped my daughters do the same. And I share that not as a place to boast or brag, but to let you know that this is available for you, that this is possible for you, and that your vision can be brought to fruition if you just believe. Okay. So I believe in you. I believe in your vision, and I'd love to be able to lock arms and support you with bringing it together. So let me know what that looks like and how I can support you. And yeah, thank you all for joining live on Facebook, on Instagram, and being patient with me, like looking back and forth between the screens. But I'm just so excited to be able to see all of your faces and just all of the great questions and all of the excitement about your goals and your vision and ending 2021 strong. And I'm just so honored and excited that I get to be a witness to it. So I hope that you all have a phenomenal day, and I'll check in and chat with you guys later. Bye, guys.